fund that's based here in Singapore, and we're part of the government. Specifically, we are part of IDA, which you have heard quite a bit mentioned a few times by Jeff. Just for the benefit of those who may not know, IDA is a government agency that is focused on three things. One, it is the Chief Information Office of the Singapore government. So it buys technology for the government to the tune of about $1 billion US in budget a year. It's also the regulator for telecommunications, so it's the kind of a licensor for telcos, right, in Singapore. And finally, it's focused on developing the IT industry in Singapore. And one part of the IT industry is obviously the startup part of it, and that's where we are focused on. A bit more about Infocom Investments itself. We are the VC arm of IDA. The main reason why we're doing this is to look at building a high-quality IT startup in Singapore. So to that end, we do two things. We obviously invest. We look for companies to invest in. We also help companies to get into Singapore. So a large part of our time is actually spent talking to overseas startups in terms of helping them understand what are the opportunities in Asia and how Singapore is the right place for addressing that opportunity, in addition to helping startups based in Singapore. We have been around for a few years now. To date, we have 11 investments. We have divested one. And we have companies like Twilio, Quid, and Motion, which are San Francisco headquartered companies. We have DS3, Just Commodity Stones, YouTube, Dark Time, and Gain Ventures that are based here in Singapore. As a matter of fact, we've done some pretty interesting stuff this couple of weeks, which will be announced pretty soon. A bit more about the investment side of things. We have a $200 million US fund. Our main target, companies in the Series A to Series D stage. So back to Jeff's slide on the growth and high growth and ready and not yet, but typically looking for companies that are growing. They have demonstrated some traction, same word again, demonstrated some revenue traction in particular, in terms of where we look for, what stage we look for. We never lead around, we co-invest. We follow investment terms of other lead investors. We're focused on several verticals, although we're pretty broad. We have areas like consumer web, mobile solutions, cloud computing, interactive digital media, and enterprise software. So a company like Twilio, for example, is pretty much in cloud computing and telephony. Quid is in big data. We're very much into big data as well. I think this is useful from the perspective of what else can we bring to the table. We have 6 members on the investment committee. These are all top VCs in Asia. Guys like King Nam from GGVC in Shanghai, David Su from Matrix China, Peng Sin, who's the chairman of the fund. He is based in Beijing from GSR Ventures, a serial entrepreneur himself. Trucky Lock from Vertex, as well as Dot Lai from Shunwei in Beijing. And so what we bring to the table, in addition to our kind of network, are people like these folks on the committee who can help in all sorts of connections and guidance. Guys we have worked with, we've co-invested with folks on this chart, Vascular Venture Partners in the West Coast, Sequoia Capital, Unisquare Ventures on the East Coast, New York, Excel, Atomico. Atomico is the fund based in London, funded by the guys from Skype. Jeffco in Japan, Horizon Ventures, which is a fund in Hong Kong, belongs to Mr. Li Ka-shing, and they have invested in some pretty interesting companies as well. And obviously locally, with guys like Singtel Innovate, OWW, and Extreme Ventures. So just a bit of credit to Ming Wong from JFDI, who created the first version of this slide. And the purpose of this slide is to show you a bit more about the funding scene in Singapore right now. The horizontal axis shows you the rough amount that the funds are ready to invest. The typical, what we call ticket sizes, the sizes that people are prepared to fund per check. On the vertical axis is really the stage of the company. As you can tell, and as Jeff has alluded to, there are a lot of activities right now in the early stage funds, right? We have guys from the iGEM program, and this is just a small fraction of it. We have guys like XLX and BAF Spectrum in the BAF Spring program. With JFDI, was probably very much in the early incubator stage. Some of the guys who are kind of like up to the 500K, and a large number of them. These are all funded directly or indirectly by the government of Singapore, obviously. So Kuo-Yi Ventures up there, and a whole bunch of the other guys that Jeff has mentioned before. And as you go out into the 1 mil, 2 mil, or even from a half to 1 or 2 mil stage, you start having more of the VCs like ourselves. To Jeff's point, this is not a big group right now. You have guys like ourselves, you have guys like Walden, Tamarix, Raffles, and as you go further out to the larger ticket sizes, you have guys like Vertex, iGlobe, which did investment into Uni 3D quite recently. You have guys like SBI, VenCap, Intel Capital, which is one guy here in Singapore, and Japco Asia. So we are relatively familiar with all the players in this space. So if you have any questions, if you have any kind of need for introductions, we'll be happy to make that connection. Okay. What else to note? So one of the comments that Jeff made was there's relatively fewer players in terms of the Series A stage. That is probably the case right now, but I'm a believer where if there are good deals, the venture capital guys will come, right? The reality is, I don't think there are enough Series A deals yet that will warrant a big presence of VCs. I mean, VCs are not going to come here and sit and wait for companies to show up, right? I mean, they have capital, they have expectations of returns, so that is going to take time when good companies show up, and they will come, okay? So that hopefully gives you some lay of the landscape of the funding scene in Singapore. I don't want to go into the details. A lot of this has been covered by Jeff. But I'll be happy to take any questions, specific questions that you have around this. That's it. That's all I have.